Hi Year 1, hope you're doing well. So it's 2 weeks since we planted our beans and I wonder what they're up to this week. Last week there wasn't a lot going on, so it'll be quite interesting to see what's happened. But before we do, let's have a look at our bean diary and just have a little recap of where we should be up to. So before, I've coloured the front of mine, made sure my name's on, and made sure on the front I put the date that we planted on the 24th of April. Then our first page on the inside is the equipment. Little recap of what we've used so far: compost, watering can, gloves, the beans, the planting pots and a trowel. And on the next page, the things that the plants need to grow. And we said, didn't we, that they need the sunshine and the light, and the best place to put them really at this time of year is in a greenhouse, so they can get both of those and stay nice and warm, and they get lots of food from the compost and the soil and from the sunshine, and a drink from that water. Then last week we drew our first week one, and we had Friday the 1st of May, and there wasn't much going on really, so we just had our little pot, and most of the seeds had moved to the top, haven't we, so we put a little seed at the top. Then we had to write how tall they were, and last week we didn't really need to measure them because they hadn't grown at all, so they were 0 centimetres tall, and I put the bean had moved to the top of the compost but has not started to grow yet. So hopefully that's where you're up to as well with your bean diary. And I'd love to see what you've done. We are going to do week 2, but first, before we do, we'd better have a look at our plants. I think you might find it's a bit more exciting. And here they are. Let me bring them a little bit closer up to the camera so you can see. Hopefully it's in focus this time. But as it's not very easy to see like that, I've done some close-up pictures again for you so you can have a look at each plant. So, first of all, I'm going to talk you through the beans and we're going to have a look at Lovell. As you can see, there are 2 beans. The one on the right, nothing has come out of the seed yet, but it's just starting to pop out, but not an awful lot going on there. A little bit similar to last week. But if you look at the bean on the left, you can see that the stem has started to come out and it leaves the old seed behind, and then it grows up and the first leaves are still all curled up together, so they've not come out very well on the Lovell one, but I'm very, very sure that it will start happening. If you take a closer look as well, you can also see the tiny little roots on there. Now, we talked about roots last week and the importance of what was happening, and going straight down we had a root and we called it the tap root. The new roots that we're starting to see now, that you can just see on this plant on the Lovell, are called lateral roots, and you can see they look like little spikes coming out, so it's like they're gripping on to help the bean to grow up. The next ones we're going to look at are garners. Again, the one on the right hand side still looks like it did last week really, so not an awful lot going on. Sometimes some of the beans and the seeds, can take a little bit longer to come through. We've done nothing different with this. He's had the same light, he's had the same water as the others, so he's just taken a little bit longer to grow. The one on the left, again, it's quite similar to Lovell's one that's sprouted and come through. So you can see it's come up, but on this one, the leaves have started to open and they've started to spread out a little bit. And if you look really carefully, you can see 2 more little leaves that are starting to come through. So you might be able to put those on your picture as well. The next one we're going to look at, Mallory. Both of Mallory's beans have begun to grow. The one on the right looks like it's burst out of the seed. And you can see it's got like an open mouth bit. If you look really, really carefully, you might be able to zoom in on the picture. But you can still see it actually popping out from the soil as well. And the stem has started to grow up and the first leaves have uncurled, but they're yet to open on this one on the right hand side, and they're yet to spread out. The second one of Mallory's, the one on the left hand side of this picture, similar to the first bean, but you can see again those roots, those lateral roots, the little spikes from them are gripping on above the top, just above the top of the compost. Now the leaves on this one have started to spread out a lot more, and others are just starting to grow as well, so perhaps we might see some more leaves again next week. And the last one we need to look at is Harding. Both of these are having a bit of a slow start, although you can see things are just about starting to happen. The one on the right, there's a change in the colour of the seed, so you can just see part of the green And you can also see some of those roots again, so those lateral spiky roots just starting to pop up. The one on the left, if you look really closely, you can see the stems there, and it's got some curled up leaves, and it's really trying its hardest to pop out. Try imagine by tomorrow that will have popped out and started growing. So lots and lots going on this week with the beans. Now we also need to look at for our diary how tall each one has grown, because we need to make a note of this every week as we go. Now last week we had to put 0 because none of them have grown at all. So I've measured the tallest bean for each house. I've not measured each one. And what I've done is measured from the top of the compost to the very highest point of the plant. So if we look at Lovell first of all, you can see that that's grown. As we've said, the leaves aren't out, and that's 4.5 centimetres on there. And the next one that we'll look at is a Ghana. So if you remember, only one of Ghana's has grown as well. And this one measures 4.3 centimetres. So although the leaves have opened out, they're actually flat, so it's not as tall. And then Mallory, we're going to look at next. Now this one has got a whopping 8 centimetres. But if you look at its leaves have started to come out, and they're pointing directly up. So we're going to take it from the very top of the leaf. And the last one again is Harding. Not as much as the others, but it's still 1.5 centimetres, and it's really trying to grow. So I imagine by next week that'll be coming out even more. So you can see really close up what's been going on, and I just want to show you something else as well. On both of Mallory's, you can see, I'm hoping that this will focus on there, that there are 2 little roots that have actually come out of the pot on that one, and there's 2 little roots on the bottom of there as well, which have sprouted out, which is great because they're getting a really good foundation for when we put them outside and we grow them a little bit more. So now we've had a look at our plants close up, and we've talked about what they've done and how tall they've grown, we need to look at completing week 2 of our bean diary. I've already done those. Now I have chosen the Ghana plant. I'm going to show you which plant I'm going to use. I'm going to use this one, as you can see on the picture. It's quite similar as well. But I'm going to follow this bean now. This is my one that I've chosen to go all the way through, because we've got to keep to the same bean, otherwise the bean diary won't be on track. So this week with the Ghana plant, you can see that the old seed is there, still green at the bottom, and the little stem has gone up, and the 2 leaves that have opened out. And I can also see those other 2 leaves that are starting to grow through as well. The other thing that I've spotted on the Ghana one, which you probably saw as well and I talked about earlier, is those little lateral roots that are there that are spiking out and getting a good grip on that compost. Now, we said that the bean has grown 4.3 centimetres tall this week. I've written that in, and the bean has burst out of its seed, and the stem has started to grow upwards with the first leaves spreading out at the top. And there it is. So you can pick your bean that you're going to follow now, and you can draw week 2 and see what's happened. If it's Harding, it might be a little bit lower down here. The other ones are also shot up as well and seen them there. If you want to, you can label it. I've not been very good. I've not labelled my parts of a leaf, but you can do that as well with more information. I would love to see how you're getting on with your bean diaries, or any pictures that you've got. Some of you have sent me some wonderful pictures of you planting, of you growing, and all the different work that you've done. It is wonderful to see. Keep up the great work. It doesn't matter how you're doing it, how you're recording it. I'd love to see it all. So next week, we may have to do something slightly different. Rather than put them straight into the ground, we may need to repot these plants. We need to give them a little bit more space to grow, a little bit more space for those roots to get stronger and hardier before we actually put them out into the soil so they can grow a bit more. So you will see me next week, and I'll be doing some repotting, I think, and hopefully they will have grown a little bit more. Can't wait to show you all the things that they've done. Take care, year 1. I'll see you next week. Bye.